back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. If you're listening in real time, January 2023, and you've been listening in the last month or so, then you probably know that in December we had a little marathon of Flashback Friday episodes. These are the episodes where we bring back some of our past iconic designer interviews for you to enjoy one more time, or maybe listen to them for the first time. And that's exactly what we found out, that we got such amazing feedback on these episodes because so many of you had not heard. People said to me, I didn't know Mikkel Welch had been on the show. I didn't know Nate Burkus had been on the show. And so, yes, we have to make sure that you don't miss these great interviews, right? So today's episode is a treat for all of us because we take it back to when Julia Marcum was on the show. If you haven't heard about Julia, which I kind of doubt, she is one half of the dynamic duo of Chris Loves Julia. Julia would join me back in 2019, and let me tell you, she is a wonderful person, just a heck of a sweetie, and we had a really nice conversation. Julia started blogging more than 10 years ago, and her readership has grown to include millions of people. In 2016, Chris left his day job to join Julia on a full-time basis. With their blog and their Instagram, this remarkable couple shares their original, authentic, and sincere perspective on the daily joys and challenges of their DIY home renovations. People follow them to learn how to improve their space and to get inspiration, tips on trends, and motivation to get things done. In today's episode, Julia explains that they know exactly why they're doing what they do, and they know exactly who they're doing it for. And this has made all the difference for their business. Let's get to Julia. Hey, Julia, thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thanks for having me, Luann.
Well, I have to say, I already am in love with you from your stories. And we've just spent 20 minutes chatting, and first of all, there's no secret that when you are your true self in every place that you are, that's how the success really comes. And in 20 minutes, I can see and feel and understand that you are your true self. So I just want to say it's been a delight, and we've barely gotten started.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Yes.
Wow.
And I also just want to tell everybody that unfortunately, Chris is not with us today. He's with Julia right now, but Chris is recuperating from pneumonia. If you follow them, you know that. And what I learned is that it's gone through their house. Their children have had it. And so I said to Julia, I'm amazed that you even kept this appointment with me with all of that on your plate and everybody's so sick. So I'm sorry that he's not going to be joining us, but I also am sending him white light and healing energy that your whole family and gets back on their feet quickly. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. So Julia, literally, you are an amazing content creator. The two of you, of course, both of you together, like you said to me, you're typically joined at the hip. So you've started this thing. It started way back when it was a blog that you were talking about your newlywed life and so forth. And then you pivoted and you moved into documenting the projects that the two of you were doing at your houses. And ultimately, we're at the point where it's full time for the two of you. Can you share with us some of those beginning thoughts and when you thought, hey, I'm onto something, the two of us, we're onto something here?
Yeah. So I've been blogging for 10 years. I started in 2009 And Chris came on in 2016 full time. And so there was 7 years where I kind of just did it. I wouldn't say by myself, because what would happen is I would be doing the blog and writing the blog and doing these projects. And then Chris would come home from his day job and I would say, hey, we need to paint these railings really quick for tomorrow.
You're not tired or anything from that full-time job.
And, and he saw it was really important to me. And I just, every day, I would just create this content every day. I felt like Monday through Friday, I had to have a post go live, because my audience knew that that's what to expect from me. I set the expectation that I was going to have a post go live on chrislovesjulia.com every morning at 4 a.m. Mountain Time. I had it scheduled. And so, after years and years of doing it, if all of a sudden there wasn't one, people would be confused. If there wasn't one for 2 days, people would probably email me. And if there wasn't one for 4 days or 5 days, people might stop showing up.
Right.
And so creating that expectation that we're going to be here, I'm going to be here every day, come join me, really, really helped grow the blog. And obviously Instagram didn't exist in 2009, or did it? I think it started in 2008 or 2009, but
it wasn't what it is now, no matter what, right?
No, exactly. And so it was actually during and I had gone on Instagram, but I wasn't using it as the platform I am using it as today, not even a fraction. But it was actually when we started doing our kitchen renovation at our previous home. I believe that was 2015. Maybe 2015, 2015, that I decided. I had about 4,000 followers on Instagram, and over a million people reading our blog. Whoa. And I was like, how can I convert some of our audience on the blog over to this new casual platform that is Instagram? And I just decided I just made a conscious decision that I was going to make my Instagram better, and I was going to focus on Instagram while still, keeping my blog content up. And so it's interesting to figure out what content am I going to create for Instagram? And that Instagram stories didn't even exist then. So what content am I going to create for Instagram? What content am I going to create for the blog, and how am I going to differentiate those? And it was honestly as simple as making my Instagram photos better. Like, that was one of the main things I did, was I was going to make my Instagram photos better. Instagram's a huge visual platform, and I, at the time, was just kind of over filtering images of whatever, my kids, me in the car. It was not focused on the content I was creating on the blog. And I realized step one is figuring out why people are following you. What do people expect from you? People are not following me to see me at my sister's wedding. I wish they were. They're not. They're not following me to see me at my sister's wedding. They're not following me to see what my daughters are eating for breakfast, or what I'm eating for dinner. And I know some people can get away with that on Instagram, but I always tell our students in our course that there's only one type of people that can get away with posting poor photos on Instagram, and that's celebrities. And I don't know how they get away with it. They can post whatever grainy, bad photo, and people eat it up. But you're not a celebrity, and you need to curate your content. And honestly, by being honest with myself and saying, okay, why are people following me? People are following me, or I want people to follow me. You can make that decision. I want people to follow me for home design or whatever you want people to follow you for. I want people to follow me for home design. I want to be known for this. So I'm going to create content around that. And in improving the quality of my photos and really focusing on what kind of content I was creating, and then doing it consistently. Consistent quality content is the key here. If you can do it consistently with high quality, then people are going to come. And so I went from having 4,000 followers to 10,000 followers in about 6 weeks. Wow. And then it doubled in two more months. And, now I have about 350,000 followers, and it's been 4 years, but I think that's and it's still growing. And I think that's something that there's no cap on how many people are interested in home design or in what you're doing if they know what they can expect when they come to your page. And I also believe that as you're growing, really in Instagram, with the introduction of Instagram stories, that added a new element, because while I always now refer to my blog as kind of the encyclopedia, our website is kind of the encyclopedia of all the background information, sources, long form stories, how we got here, how we got to a project, how we did a project. Everyone, our audience now knows they can find all of that stuff on chrislovesjulia.com. And then they come to our Instagram feed for kind of the highlight reel of all the pretty pictures. And then they can follow us on Instagram story for the candid behind the scenes of the hilarious and sometimes messy ways. And also, I love Instagram stories because it's given everyone a peek into the real life. And you can show your personality so much in Instagram stories. And while people have fallen in love with your work of your feed, how can you help them get to know the person behind that work on Instagram stories? There's so many designers that I follow on Instagram now that I wish I knew them. I could spot their work anywhere. I'm like, oh, I love that. Yes, I know that person. I know their work. But I want to know their I wish I knew their personalities a little bit more. And I would never message them and tell them that, but man, I wish I could.
You actually could, probably. So I just want to pull some of that apart, Julia. So what you're saying is that the first thing that we want to do if we want to grow our Instagram, and I would say to you that I think that this is true whether we are interested in having an Instagram go from 0 to 1,000 and be just communicating with people who ultimately could possibly be our potential clients, or we are interested, if there's a designer interested that is wanting to become an influencer at your level. So what I'm saying is the principles are the same no matter what your goal is as far as the size, right? But the first question you're saying is to ask yourself either, why are people following you, or I want people to follow me for. So that's our first thing. Either just figure out why they're already following you, or decide what you want to be known for. Is that what you're saying, right?
That's exactly right. And I don't know any designer on Instagram that either this is going to happen. Your following is going to grow, and more people are going to get to know who you are as a designer, and you're going to get more clients. I wouldn't even say or, I would say and. Yeah. Your following is going to grow, and you're going to be able to increase your prices because your demand is going to go way up.
Right.
There is zero downside to growing your Instagram presence.
Right. And so the thing is that when you say So what was it for you? So, I mean, first of all, you said you went from 4,000 to 10,000 in 6 weeks, and then it doubled again in a few months. That's unusual. But do you think that came with, because a moment before that, you said you had 1 million visitors to your blog on a regular basis. So you were leveraging them over. The rest of us are not really going to go from 4 to 10,000, then to 20,000 in a 5 or 6 month period, right? So we're sort of.
I would actually, okay, so I've coached a lot of, because we're getting ready to launch our Growing Your Audience course. I have done a lot of tests with people that have started with 0 at the beginning of this year. Right now, 10 months in, one is at 13,000 and one is at 9,000.
Whoa.
And this is starting from 0. And this is without my, help plugging them. This is following principles of just really concentrating on, I'm going to grow my Instagram following. Honestly, sometimes it's a matter of getting over the fear of what other people are going to think, whether that's your friends, family, colleagues. Oh, you want to be an influencer now?
Right. Because that is a real, like, I can imagine somebody thinking like that people would look at them and think, really? Like, right? Right.
Yeah. It's an honest fear. And so just letting people know, I'm taking this seriously. I'm going to start a Instagram account, I'm going to dedicate my Instagram account now specifically to interior design, to my business. This is what it's going to be about. And that means cutting out the fluff of everything else.
Right.
Sorry, can't post your picnic anymore on your feed.
Right.
And on it, even before you hit that first 10,000 on your stories. And this was difficult for me because it was really a really humbling experience to see my follower count go down once I started dedicating my account to our home design renovations. To when I did be like, oh, whatever, I'm posting this picture of me and my sisters. Well, guess what? I lost 40 followers. And that was humbling to me to see, okay, these people aren't following me for that. And I'm going to have to save that for something else. It does change as you grow your following. The feed doesn't. The feed should always remain the same. But with the introduction to Instagram stories, once you have a large enough established following, then they might become a little bit more curious about what skincare you're using and all that stuff.
Right.
But that is not in the beginning stages at all. What the focus should be.
Okay. And so that's significant that you're taking somebody now the person, those 2 success stories in your course aren't necessarily interior designers. They could be from any field probably.
Yes, neither of them are in the interior design field, but they're in even smaller niches, which makes me confident that this is something that can work. I have I will not say that, having a blog didn't help me gain my following at all. I think that was something, but that's also a testament to,
all of those years of working.
All of those years of working.
Yeah, you can't negate it. I mean, content.
Content and then creating content. And, it's been 4 years now, and I've seen other Instagrammers or designers on Instagram rise up from nothing in those 4 years to, hundreds of thousands as well. And I see what they're doing, and they're doing it right. And it's about creating consistent quality content based around your niche and really focusing on it and engaging with your audience and showing your face once in a while in Instagram stories and letting people really get to know you and your work.
And interestingly, so it's funny because here you are, you're in the interiors industry. Of course, this is what you and Chris specialize in, is doing all of the renovations and the projects in your own homes. So you're one of us, right? You know what that's like. But it's interesting for me to visualize you teaching in your courses people that are not in the interiors industry, because what's funny is, as challenging, I know one of the challenges that lots of designers face is that good quality photograph, like you said, that it must be great quality. But what's interesting is their actual only challenge, for the most part, let's call the greatest challenge, is paying for that good quality photograph. But for the most part, designers have the content for good quality photographs. And where I'm going is, I can't imagine if somebody came to you and said, I don't know, I'm a lawyer and I want to grow my Instagram following. It's sort of like, well, what are we going to make these photographs at? Like, you know what I mean? At least, and by the way, I have to say, I don't know if you know JB Lieberman from #Legal. Julia, you should look her up. She is an amazing lawyer, and she's so she's just such a personality, and she runs this great firm. She has an all-woman firm, all virtual.
Wow.
Yes, and she's so fun. Her personality is amazing. And it comes through, she's got like red streaks in her hair. She just is so her. But she's like the only person I could think of as a lawyer that could make an interesting Instagram feed.
Well, I don't know if you saw, it was actually, it was on some entertainment news platform. And this was earlier this summer, but someone's dad or someone wanted to become an influencer or something, and her dad, I think she was in high school, and her dad said, well, I'm going to do it too. And he's a construction worker. And he said he's going to have the biggest construction worker Instagram. And he did it.
That's awesome.
And he has, I'll have to find the name of it, but it was all about taking really good creative photos of him on the construction site. And he gained a huge following, and his captions were witty and the pictures were on point. And it was like, it's true. Interior designers, I feel like, have the easiest, I don't know. I'm probably
food, interior designers. Like, I feel like there's a leg up here, right? Fashion, food.
It's already pretty, but
That's
I'm like,
right.
am I biased? I don't think so.
Right.
Am I just super interested in interiors? So of course all those pictures are interesting to me or beautiful to me, but I feel like we are in a field where, it shouldn't, the content is there. It's really capturing the content that is really your only task.
Right.
And I don't have a photography background. And I took only until 3 months ago, I took all of my own photos.
Whoa.
And that was a huge learning curve. Even when I decided in 2015 that, okay, I'm going to take better pictures. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to take better pictures, and I'm going to, grow my Instagram account. And I knew that the pictures were going to be the key. And I just got myself a little intro DSLR. I took a beginner's online photography class to figure out how it works. I looked at endless photos and I studied why I like them. And then I looked at photos and I decided, okay, why don't I like this? Why isn't this pleasing to my eye? And I feel like as designers, what's pleasing to the eye.
Yes.
I don't want to take away from photographers, because I think a photographer is a very, very valuable asset and investment if you can afford it. If you feel like I'm not at the point where I can afford a photographer, which I think would be an incredible investment, if you're not at the point where you can afford a photographer, don't let that be the excuse why you can't grow your Instagram.
Good for you. Good for you. I mean, we do always encourage interior designers that is something they should build into every project as an expense and make sure that it gets covered, because quality photographs are key. But if you're going to stand there and tell me that until 3 months ago you took your own photographs, you're right. There's no reason that that's an excuse. And the thing is, what I love about it, Julia, that you said is you didn't just say, I took my own pictures. You said, yes. So use an entry-level camera. You did an online course, but the next line was the money line. It's, I spent hours looking at other photographs, identifying what I liked about them, what I didn't like about them. And that's where, that's where we sort of separate the men from the boys, right? Because so many people will just take the pictures, they won't come out right, and they'll say, well, I can't do it and I can't afford it, so I guess I can't have an amazing Instagram account. But it's the willingness to really put in that research. And if that means that it's you sitting there figuring it out, that's what separates people like you and Chris from the rest of us, where you create these amazing platforms because you're willing to do all of the work. We all think that, I know it, I don't think it. But I mean, often people will think, oh, it's easy for them. It just came easy. There's a lot of work that goes into creating the type of community and presence that you and Chris have created beyond the actual physical painting of the staircase, right?
Right.
There's that too after a long, hard day of work back in the day for Chris, right?
Right. Sometimes that's the easy part.
Right.
Is
yes.
honestly it's putting together the room. And then I'm like, okay, now I have to style it and photograph it and then edit the photos and write the content. And I was doing all of that myself for 9 years.
That's crazy.
It wasn't until, we got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to hire a photographer 3 months ago that I'm like, wow, my days are so much better.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I totally agree with you that investing in a photographer, but also educating that photographer on what you want, because there are so many designers that I follow on Instagram that their photography is what really, the rooms set them apart, but the photography is stylized too. And I sometimes think, I actually talked about this with a couple other of my interior design blogger friends, is like, how different would our homes look if we went to each other's houses and I photographed your house and you photographed my house? It would just look totally different. And now that I've hired a photographer in-house, I have had to take the last couple months and really sit down and say, this is what I want it to feel like. This is what I want the photos to be. Do I want them light and bright? Do I want them a little bit more moody? And it's like, you're the designer and this is your work and you get to decide how that's going to look. It's still up to you. Even if you hire a photographer, it's still up to you how you want those photographs to come out. And I think that's going to completely change the way your Instagram looks and your content looks. And I think that's something that you can't just say, I'm going to hire it out and forget about it. It's still going to be your name on it.
Right, so. Exactly. Now, tell me a little bit about that. Why are people following you? Question, or what do you want people to follow you for? Julia, when you were really figuring out your Instagram, and now today, when you do the main feed, what is the answer for you when you say, why do you think people are following you, or what do you want them to follow you for? So put those words together for us.
People are following me and it's usually a homeowner that wants to improve their space. And no matter what state it's in, no matter their budget, they want to learn how they can improve their space. And so my audience is looking to me for inspiration and motivation that they have the power to improve their space no matter what stage of life they're in. my audience has followed me from when our budget was $25 a month to improve our space. And that was something that we talked about when we were first married, living in a basement apartment, and the money was tight.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not let that for me be an excuse as to why I didn't want to do something. What can I do to make this feel more at home? To now, we have a much larger budget,
Mm-hmm.
and some of that budget is allotted to hiring things out, contractors, and everything like that. And so I think that a lot of my readers come to me for tips on trends, on inspiration of things that they can implement in their own home, and the motivation to get it done, to start somewhere, to not wait until everything's in line to improve their house. But what can you do right today to improve your home?
Okay. All right. I love it. I love it. And so when you think about creating this content, and to your point, we have to, like you said, when you put your sister's wedding up, people didn't like it, but you're further along now, because we do have some pictures of your children, right? Tell us your barometer for figuring that out, and how you evaluate what is the little bit of personal that goes on the main feed. How do you know the difference when it's right or wrong for you and your audience?
It wasn't an accident. It was a lot of testing, and it all happened in that 0 to 10 before I hit 10,000. I knew I had it dialed in, and it has progressed a little bit, but for the most part, and I tell my team now this all the time, our audience wants a scene. They don't want a close-up vignette. Occasionally, that's okay, but they want to see how this whole scene is fitting together. So, for instance, we did a gallery wall post just today, and my photographer was taking the picture, and I said, we need to zoom out. I need the rug in it. I need the desk in it. I need the lamp in it. And then, even though this is about a gallery wall, I know that my audience engages most when they see how that fits in with the rest of the room. And there are other designers that I can look at a kitchen sink full of flowers all day long. I'm not going to lie. I will like the photo every time.
Right.
But our audience loves to see a room, and it doesn't have to be a full room, but at least half of a room. They want a pulled back photo. And I've noticed that if it's just a photo of myself, it doesn't do as good as a photo of me and Chris sitting in our kitchen having a candid conversation. We don't even have to be looking at the camera. And so now I've started to incorporate, and they love to see how we live. And so, but they don't want it to be posed. And so I've come now over all these years to, if I see a moment happening with one of my kids, it's never, ever them looking at the camera smiling.
Okay.
But it's a moment in a room, in a space, living, and it's about the room, but there's a person in it. Okay. And I know now that that's how I can incorporate my personality and my home life into the photos. And I encourage other people, designers, get yourself in the photos. Let me see you putting a vase on that table.
Right.
Let me see who you are and how you interact with this space. And that is something that really is going to trademark your designs. And there's so many people, like I said, that I see their rooms and I can identify their rooms, but I really want to see more of them. And so I always encourage people, when you open up your Instagram feed, you see about 9 photos, and you should be in at least one of those top 9 photos at all times.
Oh, okay.
At least a photo of you or some life.
Right.
It doesn't. If you feel camera shy, appear on your Instagram stories. That's very important. Talk us through it, or at least have someone video you as you are meeting or going over plans or something, let's see that behind the scenes, because it still fits into your story. But in those photos, I always try to include in the top 9 a photo of a person interacting with a space, because those photos really, really engage people.
So what I'm noticing is like this one photo is so adorable with Polly and your
Yes.
dog.
Yes.
He's looking at her like, I see you here. You're not hiding from me. The idea is to play hide and seek, right? But to your point, we're seeing the kitchen, we're seeing the rug, we're seeing the vignette of the home and of the interior that is so a part of your brand.
Exactly. If I could have, if it was a photo for, there's probably another photo of this exact scene on my phone where it's just a close up of Willow, my dog, and my little girl, Polly, and it's probably closer, but that wouldn't be appropriate for my feed. I knew if I wanted to post a photo of my kitchen, which I have a dozen times before, how can I make this fresh?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get a human element in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is still, a perfectly cropped photo of my kitchen. I made sure the cabinets were lined up straight. I cleaned off the countertop. This is not
right. This isn't casual. This is not off the cuff.
This is not off the cuff. Although I didn't pose those two there. They were there and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go clean off this. And actually you can barely see it, but there's a corn dog box on the right counter that I had to crop out because I'm like, I didn't move it and it's in the picture, but I would never put that on my feed. So, the photos of especially my kids, I don't stage them, but if they're doing something really cute in a room that I can post on my feed, I absolutely am like, okay, well, I'm going to clean off this counter really quick and quietly so they don't move. And then I'm going to step back, and I actually just took this photo with my phone. There's elements that you see every day, and it's content, and how can you use that content in a fresh way? And for me, it's, what are we doing in the kitchen today? It was a lot easier. We just moved into our house 4 months ago. And so we are very slowly renovating the entire thing. And it was a lot easier in my last house when there's, an Instagrammable picture at every turn. But now I'm working with a very select few cute corners. Right. But, like you said, interior designers have this, hopefully you have this just vault of beautiful spaces that you designed. And I had the opportunity, the Studio McGee team, before we moved from our last house, Shay McGee and her team came and they used our deck to photograph some of their summer catalog for their new things. And they styled up our deck really, really beautifully. Wow. And they photographed it and they photographed us in it. And it was so beautiful. And then guess what they did?
What?
They put a whole nother set of furniture in it and they photographed it again. Oh. And it was such a lesson to me. And I hope for any interior designers listening to this, you have the space. Maybe you have the photographer on hand. Maybe you're photographing a nightstand, and how can you photograph that 3 different ways? And then you have content.
Right. So she already had the film crew, the studio, the photography crew, everything there. It's like a great background. Was it revealed in her thing that it was your house? Was that like a cross-pollination of you guys?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. But like she has 2 sets of furniture so that she can get twice the mileage out of the expenses that go along with that, and the inconvenience to ask her friend to give up her patio for the day, right?
Exactly. And so anyone listening to this, that's the difference. That's the difference. From like posting a picture to creating content. Right.
Thinking about all the avenues, right? All the different ways you can maximize it.
Yes. Maximize what you already have on hand. And I know that, what makes interior designers unique and what's going to help someone, hire you over someone else is your unique point of view. But what can you share with an Instagram audience? I don't think sharing 2 styled nightstands or a nightstand styled 2 or 3 different ways is going to give away all your secrets.
Right. Exactly. Right. No, I love it. And it speaks to your talents. If somebody were to actually recognize that's the same nightstand, but it's styled completely differently, that's actually a plus, right?
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
Right.
And so don't feel like you posting your content and your work on Instagram is going to take away from people hiring you. I think it's actually going to do the opposite. We don't do client work, but I get asked,
I can imagine.
I get asked so many times a day, could I please? And I am giving people the exact paint color I use, and they still want me to come do it for them. And so it's not going to take away from your work. It's only going to really enhance and add to it.
And that's an interesting point, Julia, that you just made, is that here, 2 points in there I want to talk to you about. The first is the decision. There had to be a point at some point with all of the work that you're doing, all of the people coming to your platform, when they did start to say, and can I hire you? Was it did you and Chris sit down and say, should we start to do this? Or did you just know that you were just like, or did you guys have to do the soul searching and say, is this a direction that we want to take? How did you arrive at that?
There was definitely lots of conversations over many years, and it's still a conversation we honestly have frequently. I think it kind of started, or I think maybe we knew it wasn't for us, and maybe it's just honestly how we do our work is we do it ourselves, and we, don't really hire things out. And we've been hired by major brands to go into other people's homes that want to give away and redo their kitchen and redo their living room and redo their dining room. We've done a lot of work in other people's homes, but every time, it's been really taxing to be away from our 3 little girls, for one. And, I because we do all the work ourselves, that look on the client's face when they're like, oh my gosh, my house is completely torn apart. And then also playing the part of, don't worry, it's all going to come together in 3 days. I just realized for me, like I'm better at, it's better for me just to help them from a far distance. And we've had so many positive experiences after that, after the reveal, and they're crying and they love it, that I'm like, I can see why people do this. This is amazing. There are definitely things I would change. Like I would probably not have them anywhere near the house while we're doing the work.
Right.
Because it has been difficult for some people to watch. But I think for the most part right now, and it's the same reason why we aren't doing a television show, which we've been asked to do many times, is we're really just focused on our family life, and that's a priority for us. And because it's kind of a package deal with my husband and I think that would be hard for our girls right now. And so right now we're just, we're going a different direction. And I admire interior designers, and I think that client work is something that, it doesn't turn off in my head what I would do for in someone else's house.
Right.
But it's just not the direction for us right
now.
Well,
what I love and admire about the two of you is that you're very clear, because things like that can be very tempting as entrepreneurs to, when you have probably, to your point, hundreds, if not thousands of people in any given week or month requesting that you do the design work for them. That's a very difficult thing to walk away from. But it's an important lesson to understand that it doesn't align with what will make you happy and the way you want to have your individual family. It doesn't, look, Chip and Joanna, they have the show. Well, it's not going any longer, but for many years they had the show and the kids were, it's what your lane is. But I think it's hard sometimes when, people are really giving you that accolade of wanting and that honor of wanting you to do it. But it takes good, strong business sense to really, the two of you, look at each other and say, what is it that we really want to do, and stick to it. So good for you. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't mean you'll never do it. I mean, the children are little now.
Yes. You're right. It's a total honor. We do get compared to Chip and Joanna a lot. And we do say, you should have a show, or you should do this, or why not do this? And I think for me, it's more of a testament that there's more than one avenue to do this.
Yes.
Maybe your avenue is a TV show. Maybe your avenue is client work. Maybe your avenue is just being a home design influencer. And there's so many avenues to do it. And we have explored a lot of different things. For a long time, I just did e-design work for people. And I would just make like mood boards. And, I did that for about a year. And for me, I was like, I feel like I could help more people by just giving more information out to the masses, and not necessarily
for one particular, right? Just here's an idea, right?
Yeah. Like maybe instead of doing this specific galley kitchen, let me just talk about how to address galley kitchens, and maybe give some people ideas, and maybe I can talk to more people like that. And so that has, I think, helped in some ways. And, I'm not doing client work right now. And I think that's an opportunity that some people might say I'm passing up, but I just don't view it like that.
No, and that's what I admire about you, because the lesser, not lesser experience, but the lesser intuitive, or the lesser just inner strength. You need to have an inner strength as an entrepreneur. You cannot chase every shiny object, and you cannot chase any and everything that you have a talent and a capability for. You have to evaluate where are my energies and my time and my creativity best spent right now, with all things considered. It's funny because, Julia, I coach a lot of interior designers, and one of the things that I often go through with them is, where are you at? What stage of life? Do you have small children? Are they high school? Are they college? Are there no children? Whatever it is, because that informs, in the conversation when I help them figure out what direction to take, because the kids are only little ones. They're only little ones. It's like, it's so, trite to say, but it's so true. And for me, youngest at 31 years old, practically in a minute, I know that it's a cliche to say that it goes fast, but I know it's true. If you hear that podcast, I haven't listened to it because I don't need to at this point. It's not where I am in my stage of life, but I heard the title once and I just thought, oh my goodness, it's called The Longest, Shortest Time.
Oh,
right.
The title's going to make me cry.
Right. Because the days are so long sometimes. Like, could you please just eat your broccoli? But the years are so short. And so I admire you and Chris for deciding what's important for you, and what, to still having a very big business and a very big endeavor with tons of responsibility, but that you slice it and say, this is what works for our business and our family. And just because I'm skilled and talented and people are asking for the other, I don't have to do it. So good for you.
Thank you. And I really think that, a lot of times people say, especially talking about, your online presence, do I have to do it all? Do I have to do Twitter and Facebook and Instagram stories? Do I have to have a website? And I always encourage people, do however much you can do really well. We do not have Twitter.
Right.
I barely am on Facebook. I focus on Instagram. I focus on Instagram stories. I have my website. Right. And that's what I can do really well right now. And that's what we're doing.
That's it.
And
I love it.
And I think saying no to things is only going to help those other areas you'll even do better at
Right,
them
right. You
because
have more
you know
focus.
this is your focus.
Right,
Exactly.
right. And so let's talk about the stories a little bit before I let you go. So you said at the very beginning that it's very important. Maybe we said off air. I actually don't recall at this point. But you said that it was very important for you to go in stories every single day as yourself. Are you doing live stories, or are you doing cut story? What is the thing that you are finding as the best way to connect with your audience?
So I have done a lot of tests on this, and I encourage everyone that, wants to grow their Instagram stories, especially to do testing too. But even if, let's say, we're still putting out 6 to 7 posts on our website a week. And so I have tested with putting a picture up and a swipe up leading right to my website and saying, what's on the blog. It's amazing to me. I will get triple the people swiping up if I tell them with my own face what the post is about today and why they should go.
Okay.
And also my views will double if I just write out a little caption of what I'm talking about. And so people, and it's also, you think, oh, I posted too much on Instagram stories today. I've been on all day. Wrong. The more is more. People in our audience, they love to see the behind the scenes. If we're doing a kitchen in 2 weeks, which we just did, a kitchen in 2 weeks, take me on the entire journey. I want to see it all. I want to see you talk through your decisions, and be vulnerable. And then I have noticed the engagement of the reveal post or the reveal picture, whether it's on my website, on Instagram, the engagement is through the roof. And I think sometimes I used to think, I don't want to show this. I want this to be a surprise. I'm not going to share it on Instagram stories, the whole process. Instead, I'm just going to save it and I'm going to be like, surprise, look at this amazing before and after of our bathroom. And the engagement is not as much as if I am taking them through, it can even be a month's process. I mean, we've been redoing our dining room since we moved in, and the engagement is still through the roof when I talk about the dining room. Anytime I post, and I can only imagine what the before and after is going to be because they're so invested in this space. And so that's what we're trying to create with Instagram stories is how are we going to get our audience to be invested in this space that we are designing or renovating, or maybe just styling. Maybe you're going into a space and you're like, okay, I'm going to restyle this, and like show the space, maybe give a tip of what you're doing while you're doing it. And then, post the reveal on your Instagram feed,
right,
and say, hey, remember that thing I walked you through? The afters are on my feed. Everyone's going to go crazy.
Wow.
And so Instagram stories is really just a candid, honest, vulnerable, fun, casual way to show your audience inside your brand. And maybe that is a day in the life of, what it looks like, or, the beginning stages of what designing a room is. Like, take some of the mystery out of it. And I see designers that are doing just that are opening the vault a little bit, that are really, really, really growing their audience. And I'm interested in what they're doing too.
Interesting.
And so I think that there's a lot of fear and anxiety about, in the design world, about maybe sharing too many of your secrets. But I just don't think that exists. And I also don't think that I don't see any other people in the interior design influencer, stage. I don't see them as my competition. I see them as my allies.
Your colleagues, yes.
My colleagues. And once I made that mind shift that these people aren't my competition, we support each other, and I love seeing what they're doing and they love seeing what I'm doing. And I, love finding new people to share what these other people are doing is something I also love to do, is just sharing new people I find and that I think our audience will find interesting, and I share them and they go follow them, and it's a community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really pushing out of your head that anyone else doing what I'm doing is my competition, and instead looking at them as colleagues and really learning from each other is only going to, what's the saying? A high tide raises all ships.
Yep. Yes,
That's really
ma'am.
that's really what it is.
It's the truth. There's enough for all of us. There's enough for everybody and everything.
Right.
That the universe is just ever abundant, right?
Exactly.
I love it. So how about from a practical standpoint, Julia? So are you like, do you like literally from a legit practical standpoint, you have a busy life, you have 3 small children, you're always doing these projects. And then there is you writing, you just said you're still putting 6 or 7 blog posts out a week. This is not, this is, I know that behind the scenes. I've interviewed Shay McGee. I've interviewed Amber Lewis. I know what's happening in your world behind the scenes and how intense it is. So from a practical standpoint, do you batch? Like, do you sit there and say, okay, I'm dressed today, makeup is on, I'm doing this, let me make a story today about this, let me make a story today about this, let me make a story today about this, and then like keep it as a legitimate video and then send it and do the cut story thing and then schedule it and, actually then on the day go and post it to your stories? Or are you just truly just candidly throwing the camera on and talking to us?
It would be a lot.
Do you mind telling us that behind the scenes?
Not at all, because it would be a lot more practical to batch it, wouldn't it?
Oh.
I actually have never scheduled my Instagram posts. I know that's like mind blowing to some people. I just don't use a scheduler, and so.
Well, I don't think we can schedule stories, but you certainly could. Like I'm like, my audience knows I hardly ever do live stories, right? We have stories every day, but they're static, right? And the crazy silly part about it is, Julia, is I have no problem doing a live story. I don't mind talking live. I'm not embarrassed to do it, but I struggle with who cares what I'm doing? You know what I'm saying?
I care.
Right? And so the question is that sometimes I say, all right, just sit here this morning and come up with 4 topics and just have your makeup on and your hair done and do it, and then send it over to your team to cut it up and put it into stories. But I don't even do that either. And so my question is, do you, when you go to do a story, do you organize your thoughts and say, this is what I'm going to talk about? Or do you just say, I'm going to talk about the dining room today, and whatever comes out of my mouth comes out of my mouth?
The latter. So, and I will say, and this started for me 2 years ago, and I work from my home, and so it's very tempting to some days not get dolled up with makeup on,
right,
and all that stuff. But 2 years ago, I just decided, you know what, this is part of my job. I'm working from home, but I am working,
right,
and I get dressed and I put on my makeup most days.
right,
And then I am more prepared to just talk about what's going on. Or if there's progress here, I'm more prepared, or more confident, I should say, to turn on the camera. Now, there are times that I have my pimple cream on my face and it's night and I'm in my pajamas, and I get a really great question in my Instagram DMs, and I say, you know what, screw it, I'm going to talk about this.
Okay.
And I do.
Okay.
And I just talk about it. And so I think that my audience really loves the candid, real nature. They know that when I'm talking about something, it's really happening, and I share the messy parts too. I share when we mess up. I'm like, I really messed up that. I actually just shared it yesterday.
It's Greta's bathroom, right?
Greta's bathroom.
Yes, I was reading it.
I just cannot figure this out. And that's not something that, every designer wants to spill about, nor do I encourage them to. But I'm saying that use Instagram stories as an opportunity to just show your true, real self. And there are times that especially if I have a sponsored post that day, there are topics that I need to make sure I hit. And sometimes they even need to approve those ahead of time. So I won't say 100% of the time it's just off the cuff, but I would say 95% of the time it's just what's going on today. And
do you do the live where you could just talk for 2 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever you want, or do you do them in the little chunks and then send them out? What is your comfort level? What do you prefer to do?
Yeah. I just usually am just hitting it right then and
go
there.
Live.
I don't go live very often. I don't go live very often. I just, you know how stories, you can hit the button and it will, I think, record 10 stories.
Right.
That's usually what I do.
Okay.
Up to 10 stories. And
okay.
then, if I need to do more, I'll press the button again.
Right.
But I don't do lives very often, but that is a goal of Chris. Me and Chris have really talked about how we want to go live just a set time every week, because like I said, that consistency is what really drives audiences. They want to know when and what they can expect from you. And so, they know that they're going to probably get 1 or 2 Instagram posts from me a day. They know that they're going to see my face on Instagram stories. They know that they're going to get a blog post. And so now we're thinking, do we want to do an Instagram live once a week? Maybe it's a Q&A or something like that. And
Interesting.
Something we're just thinking about.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, you are something else. I just love it. I love you're just you guys together are awesome. And I do love to watch you live and watch your stories and stuff like that. And I did just read the whole thing about Greta's bathroom. And what was interesting was all of the advice you got on the post on your blog, all the designers coming in, and I'm sure just regular design enthusiasts saying, you should paint it this color. You should do this. You should do that. I'm thinking, whoa, we certainly have a lot of experts on our hands here, don't we?
And before I pushed that live, I just said to myself, okay, this is going to be a very highly engaged, opinionated, I know I'm going to be humbled here, and that's okay. I always tell people, I'm like, I'm not a pro. I'm just a pro at creating this content.
Right.
That's what I'm a pro at.
Right.
I'm a pro at engaging people and helping them love their homes. That's what I'm a pro at.
That's awesome.
So it's okay for me to, hand it out every once in a while too.
And I have one last question. A couple of times you said, my favorite designers. And you said at one point, I wish some of the favorite designers that I follow would show more of their backstory and stuff. Who are some of the favorite designers that you follow, Julia?
Oh my goodness. Jessica Helgerson is who I'm loving right now. Her handle is JH Interior Design. And I only found her, she's based out of Portland. I only found her earlier this year. And she is just inspiring me so much. She has this really moody traditional vibe, which I very much connect with. I think her photos on Instagram are not the bright white spaces that we've become accustomed to seeing, which brings me back to that point. Like, you can control, the photography, how your photography looks, because some of these spaces are white, but they're not, they're not blown out. And so I have shared that a lot with my audience. And then Josh Young, who is an artist, but he also does interiors, and his account is J Young Design House. And he's based out of Chicago. And I actually first found him through his art. I am obsessed with his art, and I stayed for the interiors. And so that's another one that I am loving lately. Both of them have a little bit more traditional. And I think that's something else that I have found. We, moved in June, and our house does lean a little bit more traditional. And so I've been able to find these new to me designers that, really portray this style that, I'm really inspired about. And are inspired by, and, definitely want to emulate some of their ideas in my own home.
These are awesome. I love it. Thank you for the tips. I'm sure we're all going to go start following them if we're not already.
Oh, good.
That's terrific. And the thing is, the last thing I want to say is, of course, I could probably pick your brain for another hour, but that's not very nice for you. But you do teach people how you have achieved this. You have your platform, Good Influencers, and it's good-influencer.com. And at this platform, you have courses. Now they're not open now. They're going to open in the beginning of the year 2020 again, but you have one course which is called Working with Brands, and then you have the other course, Growing Your Influence. Tell us about these two courses, because now that I knew it already, but now that I'm convinced that you are skilled at doing these things and can teach them, I'm interested.
So our growing your influence, or growing your audience course, is it's for those people that really are ready to grow their audience size, and especially specifically on Instagram. How can I grow my numbers organically? That's the key word, because I get emails all the time for people, and I'm going to say something controversial right now, and you can cut it out if you want to. I get emails a lot of times from influencers in my field that want to do these big buy-ins where everyone pays $100 and then everyone shares each other, and then you have to follow all of them, and then they're going to do a giveaway for $500. And it's really just 5 people that paid $500 too. And it's really, the controversial thing is, I think that is buying followers. And this
But
course,
in reality, you're actually 5 people at a similar level. So whether it's 5 people like yourself and Amber and Shay at the multiple hundreds, thousands, or it's 5 people at 5,000, you're each putting in $100. You're each following each other, and then you're offering a contest to each of your audiences. So one person, based on whatever the contest is, they're going to win $500. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So they're going to win $500 if you follow all of us.
Okay.
Is the content? The contest is go follow all 5 of us, and then one person's going to win $500.
Okay. And you don't love this. I mean, you don't care that other people do it, but you don't love it.
I don't participate in it, because I don't believe that is, I just consider that buying followers. And so this course is, how can I grow my following organically? How can I grow my following without the round robin giveaways? How can I grow my following with an engaged audience? Because that's what you really want. You want people to follow you for you,
right,
and for what you're doing. And so that is what the Growing Your Audience course is about. And then once your audience is grown, you have the amazing opportunity to start working with brands and sponsors. And I see people, and we tested it, and we've actually gone through 2 semesters. We're in our 2nd semester of this course right now. And the testimonials are amazing, that people have, doubled or tripled what they're charging because they weren't charging enough, or maybe they didn't know how to do a media kit, or maybe they just didn't even know who to contact, or how to create quality content. What does that look like? And so our Working with Brands course is about creating relationships with brands that you can work with, and sponsors that you can work with, and getting paid for it, and also creating these long-lasting partnerships that, they're going to want to work with you again. And so we've been, that's honestly a big income driver for us. About 30% of our income is working with brands. And it's one of our passions. It's something that we love doing. And this course is really for anyone that is ready to do that. We recommend it for anyone with 10,000 to 1 million followers. We tested it to someone with 1 million followers, and even they got a ton out of the course. Wow. And so, yeah, it's our new passion.
That's awesome. It's so awesome that you have, the two of you have this superpower of creating content and really making it and helping it to translate to help other people as your direct audience members. But now you're teaching, others in the industry how to duplicate what you've done. That's terrific, Julia. That actually is really, because most people want to keep it all behind the curtain. But to your point, there is enough for everybody. And if we all help each other, then we all get better. There's no, the scarcity mindset is just so, it limits us mostly, right? It limits the first
really
person
does.
it limits is us. Yes. That's excellent. And one last question about your course. Is it an online self-paced course, or is it a course that you have led by instructors or whatever?
It is an online self-paced course, but Chris and I also are the instructors, and then during the course, we do Facebook Lives with the people.
Oh.
We have a private mastermind course that you are enrolled in. Once you buy the course, that we will critique your media kit, we'll help you with your Instagram caption, critique those. And so during the first 3 months after you buy the course, we are really there to help you succeed. And that's been a lot of people's favorite parts, is that, we are your mentor during those first 3 months, and you can take as long as you want. Once you buy the course, it's yours forever. Mm-hmm. But during that first 3 months, we really believe that if you see fast success, you'll be more motivated. And so we really encourage our students to let us help you through this course and let us get this ball rolling, because you've already spent so much time not earning your potential or not, reaching that. And so we, Chris and I are there every day answering questions, helping people with their pitches. In the Working with Brands course, we have a dozen real life email interactions between us and actual brands, and how we negotiated things, or how you can write a pitch email. And so it's really, really valuable information if you're ready to take the leap.
That's amazing. It's funny because it never in my wildest dreams would expect the interaction with the two of you, but you did say something when you were describing it that I was like, they can't possibly be in this course. It has to be online. But that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we're in
about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're in the Q4. We're somewhere in the winter, late fall of 2019, and the next opportunity for somebody to enroll in this is going to be the beginning of 2020, right? But I'm sure there's an email list that they can sign up if they go to good-influencer.com. I imagine there's an email list that you can sign up to be notified. Correct?
Yes. And then you can also follow on Instagram at Good Influencer. It's actually Good Influence _R. Right. And you can follow over there, and we will keep you updated over there too. Amazing.
Well, Julia, you are just a love. I just enjoy talking with you so much. I'm so sorry for myself and all of my listeners that Chris was not well, but we are, as I said, hopeful and sending him white light and healing energy that him and your girls get back on their feet. I can't even imagine everybody's sick in the house with all that you have on your plate. But thank you so much, Julia, for spending your time, your energy, and your information with us today.
I appreciate you having me. This was a blast. Thank you so much.
Right? I said it. A wonderful conversation with such a kind. She's so kind and intelligent, right? You can feel the caring coming through, right? And just listening to her talk about all the work that goes behind the scenes to build up the presence on social media. It's a little exhausting, isn't it? But I can assure you that all of the dedication that she puts in, her and Chris, is worth it because, of course, they're seeing the results, right? Julia gave us a really good and important question to ask ourselves when we start thinking about developing our social media strategy. Why are people following you? Or what do you want to be known for? Okay. Now, I know this can be a tough one, but all you have to really do is sit down and listen to your own head for just a little bit, right? Maybe you put a glass of wine next to you. I don't know. Maybe you do it on a run or a jog or a walk or sitting at the beach. Okay. It's just about really sitting with yourself and asking, why am I doing this? Who am I doing it for? What do I want to be known for? Okay. Every single one of us will have a different answer. Every brand has a different answer. And some might look alike. But just like Julia mentioned, this is a key statement for you to have in your business. And you can take Chris Loves Julia as a perfect example in this. She knows that people follow them because they want to learn how to improve their space and get some inspiration and motivation no matter what stage of life they are in. So what do? They share daily organic content, not only about the renovations they make, but also share a little of their personalities and let their followers get to know them so they feel like they're friends with them. They're not only building their social media platform, but they're also connecting with their audience and giving them the content that they want, that's needed, relevant, valued, and relatable, right? And we all know that there are some days when you just don't want to log into Instagram or any other social media account to show your face. But here is where the dedication and the consistency play a huge role, right? This is where, we separate men from the boys, as they say, okay? It's, are you going to show up? Now, I will say to you, it does go back to your why. If you are building your actual core business from social media, then you do have to consider that there will be days that you don't feel like showing up, but you're going to anyway. That's just the way it is, okay? Because it's part of the strategy and actually most of the strategy. But if your end game, if your why does not rely on social, then you can give yourself a little grace. It's part of it, not the whole thing. It's one lane, to Rome. It's not the only lane to Rome. So this is why the getting clear first is so important. Okay. Julia mentions that they post 6 to 7 times a week, and that may seem insane to all of us, but this is their core tool that supports everything else they do. She has taught her following that they can expect this from them, so they honor it and show up. And I always ask all the questions about doing the video, and I always joke about my lack of commitment to showing up in real life on social media. And you know what? It's, to some level, it's funny, right? And maybe someone would tell me I'm dumb for not doing it. And I wouldn't argue with them, by the way, okay? But what I'm telling you, my core why and where I show up is right here, the podcast. This is my non-negotiable. I have taught you that you will find both a well-designed business and window treatment for profit every week, every month, year after year. So if I do the extra of social, yay, high five for me. But I don't take my core lane, right? And play around with it. And that's what Julia does. Her core lane is there, her blog and social, and she doesn't play around. She shows up whether she feels like it or not. So figure out figure out your core lane, figure out what works for you. And then when you commit to it, watch it work. And if you don't commit to it, don't blame anybody else, right? All right, let's recap. The pillars of a terrific social media strategy are, according to Julia, quality photos, thoughtful, creative content, good captions, and this commitment to consistency. Okay. And then just a healthy understanding, just like everything else in life, it doesn't happen overnight. It usually happens overnight in 10 years. I mean, that's the kind of thing, right? But it doesn't happen overnight or in 10 years if you don't have the quality photos, the thoughtful, creative content, good captions, and a commitment to the consistency. All right. So, and you have to learn about your audience, understand what works for them and what doesn't. Maybe they like the static pictures. Maybe they like the lives. Maybe they like whatever it is, but figure it out, because if you're going to show up and do it so it's the people you want to attract are enjoying it and finding it. All right. So I want to thank Julia for this incredible conversation. And hopefully, we have to get on this again and maybe have Julia back with Chris as well. Okay. That would be fun. Listening to this episode again reminded me of that. And I'm like, hey, why did we never do that? So would love to see your comments on this post in Instagram and in our Luann Nigara and Friends Facebook page. If you had any ahas after listening to it again, you know what I find too? If you're one of the listeners that it's the second time you're listening to it, I consistently find, whether it's me listening to audiobooks or me listening to other podcasts or you guys expressing to me, that when you hear the same exact information a week, a month, a year, 2 years later, we take different things from it because we're ready for different information and ready for different messages and ready for different challenges at different times. So I'm very curious if you had a new aha if you did listen to this one back in 2000, whenever it was. And we did it. Alrighty. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you so much. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or Luann University, go to luannnigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.